spaghetti all'asassina, or killer spaghetti, also known as spaghetti bruciati or burnt spaghetti, is a pasta that is so good, I might kill for it. But why the murderous name? I'll explain later. For now, we gotta prep some essential ingredients, so let's jump into it. I got 5 garlic cloves here. So I'm gonna take about 2 of those garlic cloves, cut off the root ends, and then for my assassin sauce, I'm just gonna give them a pop. I don't wanna smash the hell out of them, I just wanna release some of their juice. And the rest, I'm gonna slice thinly. This is gonna be for the weekday sauce. And then just put each one in a bowl. One for the tomato sauce and one for the assassins. All you need is some tomato puree, a little chili flake, because this is a spicy dish, and then some spaghetti. I'm gonna go with about 100 grams, just because I'm making this today for me. And oddly enough, the original recipe calls for a pasta that is not bronze die extruded, the one that I always recommend that you buy. I'm not really sure why, and I've never noticed the difference between using a good quality pasta, so I'm going to use it today. Now the way I do it, I'm gonna need 3 pots. One with about 3 cups of water brought up to the boil, another 3-quart saucier to cook the weekday sauce in, and another pot to cook the spaghetti. In the saucier, I'm gonna coat the bottom of the pan with oil over medium-high heat. I'm gonna add the garlic, I'm gonna throw in a basil stem, and I'm gonna season with a little bit of salt, and I'm gonna let the basil and garlic infuse into the oil to flavor it. Once the garlic begins to toast around the edges, then I'm gonna pour in a bottle of tomato passata. Now you can just use passata for this, but I wanna have some leftovers that's a complete sauce to be able to use. So that's why I'm making weekday sauce. Fill that jar halfway up with water to clean out the jar and then add that to the sauce. Get it all mixed up, hit that sauce with a little bit of salt, and then bring that up to a boil, drop it down to a simmer, and let that cook while we work on the pasta. Now we go over to the 3.5-quart saute pan, which is where we're gonna cook the pasta. I'm gonna coat the bottom of the pan with oil and get the whole cloves of garlic in there along with some chili flake. And then I can drop the raw spaghetti directly into the pan. Because of this, the size and shape of the pan actually becomes important to this recipe. And at this point, we're looking to toast the raw spaghetti, almost like you toast rice before you cook it. And you want to kind of gently and carefully move the pasta around so that it gets evenly toasted. And once you see the color of the pasta change, and you can see it's obviously getting toasted, we can now start to cook the pasta like risotto by first adding in a few ladles of tomato sauce. Be careful of a few flare-ups, but the idea of this recipe is to keep it kind of on high heat. So just be mindful of that. I'm going with about 3 ladles of the tomato sauce and then about 2 ladles of the water to almost make like a tomato broth. And then on high heat, I'm just gonna let this go. I'm gonna season with a little bit of salt, and then on high heat, I'm just gonna let this go. I'm maybe gonna zhuzh it up a little bit, and I'm gonna run a timer to show you how long this takes. It should take double the amount of time it would normally take to cook this pasta. So now you just wanna let that go until that sauce reduces all the way down. Now it is important to note that the original recipe requires the use of a cast iron pan historically. One that never got cleaned, when they would wipe out with a towel after every use so that residual grease stays in the pan. And the heavy iron pan helps that sauce caramelize in the distinct way that is this recipe. But over time, safety concerns arose over the use of iron. And so especially at home, as long as it's a nice heavy bottom pan, a good non-stick or stainless steel pan will work great in this recipe, especially if they are high quality pans like the ones I'm using today, thanks to our sponsor today, Made In. For this recipe, we're gonna need the 3-quart saucier to cook our tomato sauce in, the 2-quart sauce pot, boil some water, and the 3.5-quart clad saute pan to actually cook the spaghetti in. The wide saute pan is actually gonna be wide enough to fit raw spaghetti in there to toast to start the recipe. Now, Made In designs professional quality pans for the home cook, and they partner with multi-generational factories and artisans to offer you a real comprehensive collection of pots, pans, serveware, and everything else you might need to cook and serve food in a home kitchen. And a pan like this works for this recipe because mainless stainless clads are crafted in Italy and made of a premium 5-ply stainless steel material, which allows for superior heat retention, even heating, and ease of heat control, essential for creating that char that is distinct in this recipe. The handles stay cool and are ergonomic to balance the pan. And for me, aside from good quality steel, the handle is the most important thing when shopping for a pan. And this is why Made In has received over 100,000 5-star reviews from both the press and happy customers. So if you're looking to gear up on some of the best pasta pans around, which you will need for this recipe, head on down to the link in my description, and now let's finish up this recipe. Now, we're going to just continue to cook this in the style of risottatura. which is just the style of making risotto. The only difference is we're not gonna really beat it like we do risotto. We may zhuzh it a little bit, but just to get all of the spaghetti submerged and to make sure it's getting hydrated by the liquid. But the idea is to kind of burn this sauce. We want to caramelize it to the point that it almost catches to the bottom of the pan and it sort of dries up a little bit. You start seeing more bubbles breaking at the surface. You can hear the sound changing from a simmer to more of a frying. Sort of changes in aroma, almost to the aroma of a pizza being baked. That rich, deeply reduced and concentrated tomato flavor. That is the magic of this recipe. Deep caramelized char. And once that bottom starts to caramelize, then you can take like a flat metal spatula and sort of scrape up the bottom and just give it a little toss. Spread it back out, and as you can see, we're already starting to develop some of that deep caramelized char. And just like risotto, we're gonna add more tomato sauce and some more water, just like we did the first time, and again, allow that to cook down and reduce. We're about at the 7-minute mark, so we still have a ways to go, so you know you're gonna need some moisture to keep this going. Now, as we let this reduce again, we can talk about how the dish developed its name. Now, according to Robert Compana, a great creator making short history videos of Italy, tells the story of how in the 60s in Bari, in the southern Italian region of Puglia, Chef Enzo Francovilla was at his restaurant when 2 guests requested something good. He added spaghetti to a pan, not to water, and added tomato sauce. And as it reduced, he got distracted and the sauce began to burn. He decided to serve it anyway, scraping up the charred bits off the bottom of the pan, and then tossing in a little bit of chili flake, and then serving it to the customers. He asked what they thought and the guests responded, "It was very good, but very spicy. You're an assassin, a killer." And that's how the name was born. Now that liquid's almost reduced for a second time. And a good indication is if it kind of get caked to the pan as you swirl it around. So I'm gonna scrape up underneath, scrape up any caramelized bits. And you see that right there? That's what you're looking for. And then add a little bit more tomato sauce, a little bit more water, and I'm just gonna keep doing this, building that caramelization, the depth of flavor in the same method as risotto. And as the sauce continues to reduce, we're gonna continue to scrape the bottom of the pan, give it a toss, and keep cooking it until it's done. Now that pasta is starting to get cooked, we can start to check for doneness. And it will get cooked just like regular pasta. The only difference is some bits are gonna be crunchy. Just like a Chinese twice fried noodle. Or like the socarat on the bottom of a paella that gets caramelized. Now it's been about 20 minutes and the pasta's fully cooked. I'm gonna kill the heat, and what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit more tomato sauce just to moisten up the pasta right before serving. Make sure I scrape up any last bits off the bottom of the pan. This is perfect. And then we can twirl it up, serve it on a plate, hit it with a little extra virgin olive oil, and this magical dish is ready to enjoy. It's spicy, it's deep in flavor, it's rich, and it gives me the texture and the vibe of like a Chinese twice fried noodle. That contrast of texture, soft, crunchy. It's still a noodle cooked like a noodle, but then you get the edges that burn a little bit, and that is the fun. And you're gonna wanna try it. The link is gonna be down in the description. That's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.